Hi everyone! In this video, I'm going to show you how to improve your IELTS Task 2 writing by paraphrasing effectively. This video is brought to you by Spanglish School. Please like and follow me on Instagram for even more tips about how to improve your English for the IELTS exam. So, in this video, we'll look at how to effectively paraphrase for the IELTS Task 2 essay. But please remember that paraphrasing is extremely important in every part of the exam. You'll need it in your reading and your listening and your speaking, as well as both of the writing tasks. But today we're going to focus specifically on our task 2 writing. So let's get started. When should we paraphrase in the essay? Well, let's start by thinking about the structure of our essay. The typical IELTS essay will have 4 paragraphs: an introduction, body paragraph 1, body paragraph 2, and a conclusion. And more or less, it doesn't matter what type of essay you are writing, whether it's advantage, disadvantage, problem solution, cause solution, etc., you more or less have to paraphrase in the same places. So for example, in the introduction, we know to include 2 components. 1, paraphrase the essay prompt, and 2, we have our thesis statement. So, as it says, the first part of our essay is a paraphrase. We have to paraphrase the essay question. So that's our first challenge. Then in body paragraph 1, we usually have several components like a topic sentence, an explanation, an example. You might also know these as point, illustration, explanation. There are several different ways to write the body paragraph structure, but doesn't matter which structure you use, probably the first sentence will be some sort of paraphrase from your reason in your thesis statement, okay? So your topic sentence or your point, whatever you want to call it, paraphrases the first point you made in the thesis statement. And that is exactly the same for the second body paragraph. Your second point or your second topic sentence paraphrases the second point you made in your thesis statement. And your conclusion is pretty much a summary of all of your points. Therefore, you are paraphrasing all of the points you made throughout the essay. So you can see we will be paraphrasing quite a bit during our essay. So let's look at some key techniques on how to paraphrase. First, identify the words you should not paraphrase. We have to remember that the key to paraphrasing is not to change the original meaning of the sentence. And often, when you try to change every single word, this can lead to a difference in meaning. Take these 4 words for example. I have seen these paraphrased in this way a lot. But of course, if we take a closer look, we can see that they are not correct. So for example, the UK is not just England. People, we could paraphrase it as humans, but it totally depends on the context of the essay. If we're talking about humans and animals, then yes, that would be okay. But just people in general, I would just stick to the word people. Pollution is, of course, not the same as contamination, and knowledge is slightly different from learning. So all of these words should not be paraphrased in this way. So it's important to identify some specific words that we should not paraphrase. Let's take a look at an example question. It says, with the development of social media, more and more youngsters are being allowed unsupervised access to the internet. What problems does this cause and what are possible solutions? In my opinion, there are two phrases here that we should avoid paraphrasing. The first, social media, and the second is the internet. It is not necessary to paraphrase these phrases because they are names of things. It's going to be pretty difficult for us to think of alternatives without changing the meaning. So, once we identify the words we should not paraphrase, the second step is identifying the words you can think of synonyms for that do not change the meaning. So, using the same example question, let's think of some synonyms for the words that we can paraphrase. So, we have development, we could use growth or expansion. More and more, an increased number. Youngsters could be young people. Allowed, we could use permitted. And access to, we could use use of. We can use all of these words in our new sentence. Now, I'm going to leave unsupervised for the moment because right now I cannot, for the life of me, think of a synonym for unsupervised. So I'm going to leave that for the moment. So right now, my thesis statement would read as, with the growth of social media, an increased number of young people are being permitted unsupervised use of the internet. Okay? Now, let's go back to that word unsupervised. And this leads us to the next step in paraphrasing. When you cannot think of a decent synonym, perhaps you could try using the word but in a different part of speech. That is step 3. Change the part of speech of words you can't find synonyms for. So we already know unsupervised, but perhaps we could change it to another part of speech. Unsupervised in the question is being used as an adjective. However, we could try to use as a noun. Instead of saying unsupervised, we could say without supervision. It means exactly the same. Yes, we have used a very similar word, but at least we have changed the part of speech. So this is a good idea for when you just can't think of a decent synonym that will not change the meaning. Try instead to change the part of speech. So now our thesis statement is, with the growth of social media, an increased number of young people are being permitted to use the internet without supervision. Now, this is more or less paraphrased. We have more or less written the sentence with new words. However, it's really not enough. It really doesn't demonstrate to the full extent our paraphrasing skills. So our last step is change the order of the information. So here's our question. Here's our paraphrased sentence so far. What happens if we change around the information? We could start by saying an increased number of young people are being permitted to use the internet without supervision as a result of the growth of social media. Here we have a much more effective paraphrase sentence because not only have we demonstrated our vocabulary by finding synonyms, we also demonstrate our understanding of the sentence by changing the order of the information. So, these are the 4 steps that you want to follow when paraphrasing. First, always identify the words you should not paraphrase. Second, identify the words you can think of synonyms for without changing the meaning. Third, change the part of speech of words you can't find synonyms for. And fourth, change the order of the information. And these steps are true whether you are paraphrasing the question or paraphrasing a point from your thesis statement. Now, paraphrasing takes time and paraphrasing takes practice. On the day of your IELTS exam, if you are panicking and you are wasting time trying to think of synonyms, just write the same word. It's more important that you have a well-developed and complete essay than you have paraphrased absolutely every word possible that you can, okay? So just remember that one piece of final advice. If you're losing too much time thinking of useful or good or effective synonyms, don't. Just write the same word and move on. You will get a much better score if your essay is well developed and complete rather than you've just paraphrased the important parts. Okay? So, this video was brought to you by Spanglish School. I hope it was useful. And please follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and continue to watch my videos on the YouTube channel. And I will continue to upload content on how to improve your IELTS Task 2 writing.